Welcome to Paranormal Latte Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Kelly Renee Schutz. Sit back and relax with us. Grab yourself a really good drink. Spend an hour and let's delve into a world of chatter about the mysteries of the unexplained. Whether you are a skeptic or a believer makes no difference. It's not always in your imagination. Enjoy your day. Now that was good. Welcome everyone to yet another episode of Paranormal Latte Podcast. My name is Dr. Kelly Renee Schutz. I am the host and the producer of this show. Tonight we have a very interesting guest with us. JJRose777 is in the house, and we had quite a candid discussion about her abilities, where they started from, how they evolved over time, and just in general, very interesting and intriguing information. But before we get into that interview, why don't we just take a moment here and learn just a little bit more about my People often ask the question, how far do you remember back in your younger years? And the answer is usually, perhaps maybe around anywhere after 3 years old. But my guest this evening has one up on many. At the young age of 6 years old, my guest this evening, JJ Rose, was already coming into not only her awakening, but her special gifts passed on to her. JJ Rose is a medium. She is a psychic. She's an energy clearer, an entity remover. She knows a lot about psychometry, telepathy, dream precognition, and she is not only a white witch, but she is a non-denominational ordained minister. JJ believes her God, spirit, and universe guides help her in what she is needed for. May that be giving a message to somebody, or may that be a healing where someone is in distress and they need to have better understanding of their situation. JJ is also an empath, someone who can feel the stresses and the strains and the happiness of what others have a tendency to give off within their own energy fields. JJ's goal is to help others learn more about themselves so they can be self-reliant in their own intuitions. JJ feels her specialty is entity and energy clearing and entity removal. Yes, as in exorcisms. We had a lot to talk about this evening, and it was a very interesting discussion from top to bottom. So please sit back and enjoy and meet my special guest, JJ Rose. Well, hello, JJ777. Welcome back to the show.
Hi, Kelly. So good to be with you.
Oh, it's so good to have you back. I think I talked with JJ Rose probably a couple of years ago. I don't know. It's been a while. And I know a lot has happened since then. And but, you know, when I reconnect with her, it's like talking to a friend that you've seen a long time ago, and you just pick up where you left off. So that's the beauty of it all. Well, but for those of you who need an introduction of her, I think I'm going to start tonight with having you give a brief introduction of you, a little bit of your background, and then we're going to start it like I normally do with the foundation question.
Okay. Hi, I'm JJRose777. I've been Sixth Sense open my entire life. I am a lot of things. I'm not just psychic. I mean, obviously I'm psychic, but I am psychic, past, present, future, precog, retrocog, mediumship, energy and entity clearing is my main work. But I also do, divination, energy, medicine, psychometry, remote viewing, telepathy, dream precog. I'm an empath as well as a sensitive. I'm a psychic specialist for a paranormal investigative team. I am also an ordained non-denominational minister, as well as an all-elemental solitary white witch.
Wow.
And eclectic. Don't let me forget that part of the word that I need to throw in there. So yeah, I'm pretty well-rounded with all this stuff. I have a small YouTube channel that I literally created because I'm the last of my line. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to make sure that I was able to give so much of the information that's been passed down to me to the public. No gatekeeping. Nothing's behind a paywall. I never ask people to like and subscribe. I just put it out there, and whoever needs it will find it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and she's very, very good at what she does. In fact, I think a couple years ago, I needed some assistance with removing, I don't know if you call it psychic surgery or something on the lines. I was having some issues. Yeah, what did you do with, I know that she removed or tried to come in and remotely snip off, so I don't know if attachments, maybe was that it? What did we do
No, Kelly, no. So I do energy and entity clearing and cleaning. And that's basically a very nice term for exorcisms and negative attachment removal. Your case was not that. Your case is just, it was a cord removal and then healing and cauterizing it. And that's part of the cleansing process. We all have cords. They're just energetic lines to someone else. They can be between you and the person at the grocery store. Obviously, the closer you are with the person, the bigger that it's going to be, the more robust it's going to be. The more intimate you are, especially if you hug a lot or if you're talking all the time, those energetic cords get quite loud. And sometimes, we all need help at times. Even myself, I'll reach out to other people for help if there's something that I'm struggling with, or if I just don't want to deal with it, right? It's like how people will go out to eat. They don't want to cook that night. Yeah. So sometimes people don't want to do their own energy clearing, and then they'll bring me in for that. And a lot of times with cords, people already know in advance what the cord is and who it's to. And they usually will already kind of know, yeah, this one is wonky. I've got a couple surprises, or like, oh, I thought this was a reciprocal situation. Oh, it is not. They are draining them dry. And that's part of that energy transfer. So it's really important to keep stock of your energetic cords and making sure, if you're feeling exceptionally drained, you want to make sure, are you checking that? And sometimes it's coming from sources that you would not think.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, this is a very complex situation she's talking about too, because oftentimes I had her, JJ, actually literally remotely come into my, and I'm in a new house now. So where you did this before was highly active, but we were discussing and talking about an old flame of mine that, I don't know, for some reason just kept hanging around and still hangs around. But the thing is that that helped me a lot. And I could actually feel, believe it or not, when you had said, I'm going to yank something or remove something, I actually felt that in my left side. And I thought that was quite remarkable. So keep that in mind if you think you might need a little help in that department. So let's go back to when as young as you can remember, and talk about when you were coming into, you probably had already been into, but your awakening and all that, and then let's evolve it from there.
My awakening was birth.
Yeah, that's right. It was like, yeah.
I was born. I was probably pretty pissed, to be honest.
To be born?
Yeah. Like, I'm
like,
doing
hello,
this
I'm back. Yeah.
Yeah. I was one of those kids that I wanted to be an adult I couldn't wait to be an adult. Other kids were, playing little kid games, and I was playing Office. I wanted to collate stuff. I wanted to write dissertations. I probably wrote 8 senior theses before I was even a senior, things like that. I wanted to be grown up so I could just do my work. Yeah. The kid stuff really annoyed me. I was in this very small body, and it annoyed me. My childhood was a lot different than most people's. Obviously, my entire family is open. So having 2 parents who understand that, there was a lot of teaching me, especially, I'm older. So the time period we grew up in was not something where you could just, go out and tell other people you can see spirits or, what things are going to happen. So there was a lot of reining me in as well of, hey, we don't talk about that with other people, or you've got to be careful, just because that information doesn't mean that they know that information. As well as spiritual responsibility. I have an entire video on that, on spiritual responsibility, because it's extremely frustrating to me to see. And, granted, I have forgiveness for people who are new to all of this and very young to a lot of it, but people who know better, who are just doing really nasty things and taking advantage of other people, that that upsets me. And there's also karmic repercussions for that, and I'm not here to judge, to each their own, but if you know better and you're doing it anyway, and you're lying or you're manipulating people, or, in a lot of cases we've heard even in the news, I won't mention specific names, but I'm sure we've all seen the documentaries on some of them. But there were people placed in really high prestigious places because of their wonderful abilities and gifts. And they were real gifts. And then they were manipulating people sexually or bilking people out of money. That to me, that's, yeah.
So I think if I remember right, were you around 6 months old? I'm trying to remember our conversation of a few years ago. Weren't you?
I want to say it was it was like 3 months with the Siamese cats.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about that. Yeah.
So when I was little, obviously a little bit of baby, my mom had to go back to work. And so there was a daycare that I went to, and I was the only infant at the daycare. Everyone else was, I think 5 and older. And so obviously infants have to nap more than the other kids. And so she would put me in a bassinet and then would put me in this room by myself because I was the only infant. So years later, I think I'm 4 or 5, and we're in a grocery store and we run into her. And my mom's like, oh, this is the woman who, babysat you until you were 9 months old. And I'm like, I remember you. I was that kid. Okay. I creeped out a lot of adults. And I was like, yeah, I remember you. And she's like, oh, okay. Thinking, okay, she's going along with it.
Right.
And, she was like, oh, really? You remember being at my house? And I said, yeah, you used to put me in the bassinet. You'd put me in the big empty room with the shutters closed. And then your 2 Siamese cats would sit next to me. And I mean, this lady, looked petrified and made some nice excuse to have to run away very, very quickly after that, which is fine. Yeah. But I remember that. I would go out of my body and look down on my little infant self, and these Siamese cats sat on either side. And it's interesting because cats are spiritual protectors. Yeah. So even to this day, I have random cats that will show up at my house, and they will literally just either sit in front of the door and look out, or they will sit at the end of the driveway and they will just watch for me. And that always gives me a heads up. Okay, things are afoot, do a little more added protections, or they've got me, which is really nice. Yeah. Yeah,
I think that's interesting. I do talk about you not by name, but about you all the time on the show. When I always ask the foundation question, when did it start for you, or when did you think something interesting happened? And then I said, well, the youngest that I know of is this gal, and I always refer to you as a baby and everything, which is remarkable because a lot of people, most youngsters, I don't know. I was 3. I don't know. I'm pushing it might be 2, but I know 3 for sure is what I definitely remember some things going on, but not before them. But you come from an interesting background too. Explain your generational, how your generations have come to you, because I know you've got quite a background.
Yeah, I will discuss my mom's side. So I didn't find this out until, like 10, 15 years ago. I was watching the History Channel one day. Mm-hmm. And all I knew really about our family's heritage, I didn't know much. My grandparents, my mom's parents, my grandfather's father and mother were both murdered. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot that we just didn't talk about, and separate incidents too, which is even worse. My mom's mom, my grandma, she was adopted. Mm-hmm. But it was an adoption a little later in life. And it was a really interesting scenario. Basically what happened was her biological mother was married before, and he went off to World War I. Mm-hmm. And he didn't return. And so they basically just told her, he's dead, move on. Mm-hmm. So, back in those days, that's what they did. Women didn't have many rights. And so she found another husband, my biological great-grandfather, and they had my grandma. And they were apparently not well off. They lived on a farm, and one day this man knocks on the door and says, "Hi, honey, I'm home." Mm-hmm. And it was her previous husband. Mm-hmm. And so she found out he didn't die in the war. Well, he basically finds her married to somebody else with a baby, and gave her an ultimatum. And she wrote a Dear John letter and put my grandma and gave her a bottle and just left.
Oh my.
There was no goodbye. There was no divorce. Technically she was still married to somebody else. So that was nullified. Wow. And he tried to take care of my grandma, but, he was a farmer. He wasn't well off. I think she had rickets. I mean, that's how old this is. Mm-hmm. And so he went to a local church, and there was a couple who really wanted to have a baby and they couldn't. Mm-hmm. And he said, would you take care of her? So she was like 5 or 6 already at the time. And he would come and visit her, and they would allow that. And then he just eventually stopped visiting. Mm-hmm. So when she got a little older, she was walking to school one day and kept seeing this woman in a car. And the woman was in the car watching her, just sobbing. Mm-hmm. And this happened every day for a week. And finally, she asked her adopted mother, there's this woman in a car just staring at me, sobbing. And then it stopped, but that was her biological mother who regretted it later. So fast forward, my grandma's in her, I want to say probably 40s at this point. She's at the hair salon getting her hair done. And this woman comes in and she looks around and she looks at my grandma. She calls her by her birth name. Now, her name was changed when she was adopted. So she didn't even know her birth name.
Yeah.
And my grandma was like, "What?" Mm-hmm. And the woman said, "Your biological mother has passed. She has a message. Oh. She wants to let you know that she's sorry, and that, yes, she was the one in the car sobbing." Oh, and the woman literally looked around and just left. Mm. So that was pretty awesome. Mm-hmm. But, besides all of that, on my grandpa's side, my mom's dad, we knew that we were related to the guy who invented the sewing machine. Mm-hmm. Oh, cool. Claim to fame, right? Does not pay my rent at all. Not Singer. His name was not Singer, by the way. His name was Elias. Oh, yeah. His name was Elias Howe. And so, we literally have one of his prototypes. That's the only reason why it stuck in my brain. And I really don't know anything else about my relatives. Mm-hmm. So fast forward, I'm watching the History Channel, and they're talking about the Salem witch trials. Mm-hmm. That has always been, I can remember walking out of 7th grade when they were teaching about it. I was so upset. And so this guy is trying to make amends to her because he feels like Elizabeth Howe's ghost is haunting him. And I'm like, Elizabeth Howe? Yeah. I wonder if I'm related to her. Mm-hmm. And I did the genealogy, and I'm a direct descendant. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And she was cousins with another person who was hung and one of the people who was accused. Mm-hmm. So that's real messy. Mm-hmm. Well, everyone was kind of related to everyone back then because there weren't that many people to choose from. Came over. So, you've got the Salem witch trials on one side. On the other side, I don't know a whole heck of a lot. I do know that it would have been my great-great-grandmother, I think. Mm-hmm. She was the word is a powwow healer. Yeah. That actually it's an old Germanic type of healing. And it's like they lay hands. Mm-hmm. And so when she immigrated to America, apparently the Native American tribes around her would actually bring their sick to her. She was that renowned and that good. And back then, you got to remember, like, the settlers and Native clan, like, they didn't really get along. So it was a big deal that they would bring their ill to, especially a woman who wasn't of them. Yeah. So that was fascinating. And it gets weirder from there. My grandmother was a minister before women were allowed to really be ministers. Got the entire family excommunicated from a specific church that I will not name. Mm. And my dad was as well. They never had a church. It was all done at home under the guise of Bible study, but it was all metaphysical Bible study. Mm-hmm. So, back you got to remember, like, Satanic Panic, and even before then, you couldn't talk about aliens and UFOs unless you were in, like, special little groups in someone's home. And you couldn't talk really about metaphysics on a big scale. You had to be in someone's home, and they had to be people you knew. Mm. So growing up with all of these rich, wonderful people with all these abilities in my life of all ages to really help guide me, coming from all these generations on both sides of people with amazing abilities and gifts. It's, I basically joke, if I came out and didn't have any abilities, I would have known for sure I was adopted.
Yeah, I was going to say, you've got quite a laundry list of abilities. And do you attribute that to your maternal, well, I know I can probably maternal and paternal for me, but do you attribute yours pretty much to your maternal line of, and no? Okay. Both.
Yeah, definitely both. Obviously there's a lot that I'm not saying, but it's so profound on both sides that, I could sit here for hours upon hours and tell you stories of things, that would, and I think that's why I am a little bit private about certain parts of my family and growing up, is because to the average person, they're going to think, what? But also, like, we've got 40 witnesses type of a thing. And some of that too, I'm sure in time I will. It's just, I've seen and experienced so much that for me, this is second nature. For me, when I have a day that nothing weird happens, that's when I freak out. So, like, I'm the antithesis of everyone else. So everyone else is like, I had this one day where, like, this really weird spirit thing happened, or something went careening across the room. Meanwhile, I'm like, well, that's normal. What's not normal is when, the lights don't go on and off by themselves, or nothing gets thrown across the room, or, I don't have a pop in from 40 spiritual visitors type of things.
Yeah. Yeah. When did you begin to notice? And I know you probably when you're very, very young, but with all these abilities that you had, what was the one primary, well, not primary, what was the one ability that you kind of went, oh, kind of like, right? Some people would say, well, I predicted something or I thought about something and then it happened and I thought, oh, isn't that coincidentally weird or blah blah blah, or you're in school and you just, I don't know, just knew things about the people around you and probably were told not to really talk about it, but the thing is,
I got in trouble.
yeah, exactly, get in trouble. What was that day like for you? How young were you, and when you went kind of like, oh, like something had happened?
Honestly, I don't have an answer for you, and this isn't me trying to be coy. It's just it's always been there, and it was always open within our home. I mean, I can remember barely being able to talk, being on my dad's lap, and him saying, "Okay, JJ, who's walking in the door?"
Mm-hmm.
And I'm naming off names, and my mom's in the kitchen washing dishes, going like, "I have to cook all these beings,"
Yes,
so
exactly.
But I mean, I've just, that was normal for me.
Yeah.
So, you don't know what you don't know, right? So I love hearing about people with these like completely normal childhoods that everything normal and, nothing really happened. And I'm like, what was that like? And they're like, why are you so interested in me? And I'm like, because I don't know what that's like.
Yeah.
I had to navigate so many different things because I knew what I knew. I mean, I can remember, oh God, maybe first grade. I didn't play with too many girls in my neighborhood. There were really no girls in my neighborhood, but there was this one, and I played with her like twice, and I was really excited, like, oh, another girl's in the neighborhood. And she was near me, and I think we were on bikes or something. She breathed, and I smelled it, and I said, oh, you've got a cold. And she's like, no, I don't. And I said, well, yeah, you do. Like, I can smell it. You've got a cold. And she's like, no, you don't. And no one can smell a cold. And I said, well, I can, and you got a cold. Mm-hmm. And the next day she was out of school for a couple of days because she had a cold. Well, she never talked to me again after that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Probably grade too.
Whatever. I mean, okay. But now science has developed to the point where they do understand that there are people who can smell sickness and cancer and things. I have a nose like a shark.
Yeah.
Not really psychic. Like, that's probably the normalest part of me.
I was going to say that you could smell things, but you know what? You're one of few that I understand that to some degree. There's a certain smell that seems to be emitted, but you mentioned it. If you had cancer, if you had something else or some kind of whatever coming up, and it's interesting. And your sniffer is really quite amazing. What would you say is, because I was going to ask you about your eyes, your ability to, if you see apparitions or if you smell things, what exactly, have you ever, I mean, this is going to sound weird, but have you ever smelled an alien or a being or something otherworldly around you, but yet nobody else can see it? And tell me a little bit about your eyesight and your ability to sniff these things.
Yeah. So, visually, there are times I see them where it's just like looking at you. They're, or if you were standing in front of me, they're completely 3D. It's kind of a joke that sometimes, I can tell just because they appear like a little not as corporeal as you. But I will walk through my own house and be like, excuse me, pardon me, to the naked eye. I'm doing that for absolutely nobody. I also can see in my mind. Yeah. And a lot of times it's just a knowing. You know how if you're in a coffee shop and you're like, oh, someone's looking at me, and you turn and someone's staring at you? It's like that. Yeah. Is this way to put it. Sometimes visual to my naked eye. Sometimes they're a little hazy, and then I can go inside and see what exactly they are. It also depends what I'm looking at, because there's so many different things. Like, not everything is a ghost or a demon, please. We coexist with so many amazing things. As for smelling things, yes. I smelled, what some people would call angels, good and bad. I have smelled, that the nasty low vibrational stuff tends to have a rank smell or odor. I've had very lower dimensional beings. They weren't evil. They weren't bad. They just come from a lower dimension, and they smelled kind of like rotting dirt and trash. Very unpleasant, very earthy though. And literally when they showed me where they were from, they're from the middle, under the earth. So it made sense. I think the grossest thing that I've ever smelled was when I went and saw the movie The Conjuring, the first. And so I'm in the theater with my cousin. I'll skip the whole part where I melted all the junior mints in my lap because I was light blasting. But so the movie it's about to start, and I look over and I see this being, and it's huge. I mean, you know how tall those theaters are. It went to the ceiling, and I went, oh no, it's gonna get out from the movie. Like, that's how it's gonna worm its way out. And so, I'm light blasting, I'm protecting. And it finally left. And so we had walked to the theater, and we were walking home, my cousin and I, and we just round the corner. So you can see my house, but you're not directly in front of it. And I stop and I go, what is at my house? And I could see this thing in front of my house. And I thought, oh, it got through all my wards onto my property. And that takes a lot. So we get into the house, and literally, like, walking through the front door where it was standing felt like you were walking through goo. It felt like you were walking through, like, watery jello is the best way to put it. It was gross. And we had been at my house before. I need to let you know, I'm a Virgo. I'm an extremely clean person. And obviously, because my nose is so sensitive, my house always tries to smell good. So we had both been there before we left, and the house is fine. I'm back, and I walk in the door, and the entire house smells like rotten eggs, dirt. It was vile. And, we're both like dry heaving a little. And I said, okay, stop. We both know what I'm seeing and what we're sensing. But let's investigate. What if I'm having a sewage problem? So I made my cousin put his nose into all the drains and into the trash to make sure that it wasn't something that festered in the house. And there was absolutely no rational reason for it. And then, we got rid of the residue and everything, and now the house smells completely normal. But that's an example. I mean, and that was not active. It was not actively at my house. It left that residue on purpose to say, I'm here and I'm doing what I'm doing.
That's interesting. There was only one time. No, there's probably been more than one time, but there was one time when I mean, I can relate to smelling this ungodly, rose-watery, putrid, stinky, whatever. And that was when this handprint showed up on my body, a couple of years ago. And that was pretty rotten. It made me nauseous. It was so sickening. And, it's kind of interesting. And of course, I went on my journey to figure out what put it on there and all that sort of thing. And I think we've come to some conclusions, but my question to you is your nose on alert all the time? Because I don't know if that was just a fluke night that I smelled that, because, there's probably things around me all the time, and I probably can't smell things all the time. Are you on alert all the time?
Yes, but in all senses, if that makes sense. My nose is extremely sensitive. I'm not a perfect person. I eat very, very healthy. I do all the things you're supposed to do to have a nice, healthy body, and try to sleep and walk and, get sun, all the things, right? Yep. But I smoke cigarettes. I've often said, if I did not smoke cigarettes, because if you're familiar, when you smoke cigarettes, it actually dulls your sense of smell a little bit. I can remember a time when I quit, and I could literally smell hormonal changes in people. Like, that's how sensitive it can get. It's extreme.
Yep.
So when you say, is it always, I mean, yeah, but I wouldn't necessarily say, they don't normally present all as scent. Most of the time it's visual, or I get just like a heads up, you know, like, hey, something's here, something needs to talk to you, or whatever the case may be. But I mean, many times, you know, in the middle of the night, I'll just wake up and I'm like, what? And then all of a sudden something will appear. So yeah.
That's, you know, what's interesting. I know one person, it's interesting you brought that up, especially with the cigarettes. I do know of one gal that was a friend of mine who had a sniffer just like that. So yeah, I mean, now I can understand now where that connection might have occurred. I could never figure out how she had such a good sniffer. Some people just do. But from an eye and a visual sight, though, when you see apparitions or whatever, again, are you seeing them like human, like what looks like a human body, translucent, kind of all of the above? What do you encounter there?
Yeah, a bit of all of the above, you know, plus the shadow and all that. Yeah. It also depends what it is, because not everything looks human. And if we understood how many things we coexist with, I think humans and their egos would calm down. We think we're creme de la creme. We're not. You know, we're coexisting with a plethora of things. And the reality of it is not all of them are really pretty or nice to look at. Like, if I were to draw them for you, you'd be like, oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, you know, it doesn't mean that they're evil. Yeah. It's just, I mean, you know, in their world, they're super hot or whatever you would call them. Right? Yes. So, you know, but then think about humans, right? Like, we all are attracted to different things and everything has their type. So when I look at them, I mean, again, if I were to draw a picture for you, you're going to have a reaction based on whatever. But to me, it's more of, what are they here for? I had this one thing, and it was so sweet and so kind, and it was just fugly, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
God bless it. But, you know, it had the sweetest, kindest heart. And you know, those dogs that they're just really unattractive dogs, but they're so cute. They're so ugly. They're cute. Kind of like, you know, but again, you have to put it in perspective. They look at us and they're like, what is that?
Yeah.
You know, so everyone's coming from their own variant point, right? Of whatever they, and also what you associate that to look like, to be like.
Yeah.
It was interesting. So I went to a museum, I don't know, like 6-9 months ago, and they had a whole bunch of Dutch painters from the 1500s. I don't know. It's a weird expo. Yeah. And they had all of these paintings with like the fae folk, right? And all these little creatures. And I looked at them and I recognize some of those. Like, I've seen a couple of these. And yet, from my perspective, those are fun. Those are normal. Those exist. But if you asked a super religious person, right, they might say, oh, those are demons.
Right.
Or those are evil. And it's all about perspective, right? Same thing with people. I mean, some people, just because they, you know, dress up in a nice suit every day doesn't mean that they're not the most evil, awful person you've ever met.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some people that, you know, they look like they're homeless and in absolute shreds, and they're the kindest people you've ever met.
Yeah, and probably the richest ones you've ever met too, you know?
Depends. Some of them, yeah. But those are, that really comes from our judgments. And I think the hardest part of this work to explain to other people who are starting to open up is you have to remove some of those filters. And usually that is done in the process. Like normally people will kind of get on that train of deconstructing from certain religious beliefs or broadening their minds a little bit. It doesn't mean that you give it all up. It just means that you start understanding, oh, okay, maybe not everything is evil. I mean, if you look at someone who you considered ugly, would you automatically think that they're evil? No. Right? They're just not attractive to you, or they're hard to look at. You know, think about people who have, whether it's a deformity or, you know, scarring of some manner. That doesn't mean anything about who they are inside.
Yeah.
The other thing is the higher dimensional the being is, the less likely it takes a form that you are familiar with, because they move so fast. Typically when I see them, like I'm able to see a form, but the face isn't like you and I. The face is constantly moving. And so, you know, unless they give me like a still image of like, hey, this, most of the time I'm just like, okay, I'm literally going off of, I recognize your essence or your energy.
It's interesting. You know, I wonder, especially about beings. Have you ever seen what we would term as a gray, or anything up? Some of these reptilians, or I call them Lizzies. Have you ever seen anything along those lines? Because, I mean, visually, it seems like you can pick up things a little bit more than anyone else and process things a little bit greater than the average, of course, individual. But where you live, there seems to be a lot of activity out there all the time, but I'm not sure. Have you encountered any of that?
Being 100%, no, I have not. I have never seen the quote unquote gray alien. I have never seen a quote unquote reptilian. From what I understand, the grays are scouts, and you know, they're just doing their job. I really don't think there's anything as negative as we keep hearing from some of these stories. I don't think they're, you know, probing everyone, like that's their primary function. I definitely feel that there's something that happens when you go from our dimension to another dimension. And it causes, whether it's you just lose time, or your memories come back and they're very pieced. They're not cohesive the way they are here, because time doesn't work the same in that dimension. And so you're already dealing with someone being put in another dimensional space that their mind is trying to figure out. And then you put them around technology that they have never been exposed to, and they're going to think that something is happening that not necessarily is occurring. With the reptilian thing, I've never seen one. I've never seen anyone shapeshift into one, but I have definitely seen, you know, attachments that will try to look like that, but they don't really look like that. And a lot of this too, you know, you got to remember that anything negative or anything that's trying to save itself, right? Especially if it's in the proximity of someone trying to remove it, it's going to read your fears, and it's going to pick up on that, and then it's going to morph. So I learned this very, very young. I got taken over with a family member of mine. There was a family where the little boy was being spiritually attacked every night. And so I got taken over to kind of witness it, but also just to kind of be there and, you know, be another kid, talk him through it. And when he was explaining what he was seeing, I'm sitting there in my mind, I'm like, but that's not really what was there. And, you know, the adult is looking at me like, He doesn't need to know that. Like, let him think it's just a creepy clown.
Right, exactly.
Because his fear was creepy clowns. Mm-hmm. It really wasn't a creepy clown. Like, when you really looked at it, it's totally something else. But it knew that fear. And so it presented in that manner in order to freak him out. And because we have had so much of this, gray aliens are bad and reptilians and this and that, and it's been kind of shoved out into the media, and you get all these stories, some which are true, some are really not. Mm-hmm. And then I'm sure there's a lot in between, right? They think it's true, but it might be a cover memory for something else, mm-hmm. or something else is happening. And then that gets into the psyche of the collective. Mm-hmm. And if you become fearful of that, then it's going to present in that way. I wasn't raised with a lot of fear. Like, I have normal, healthy fears, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, I know not to jump off a building. I'm not going to sprout wings and fly. Mm-hmm. Good advice. But that being said, I also make sure that I am so sure and confident. And a lot of that also is just training, from being raised the way that I was to do this work. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it was spirit making me that way, mm-hmm. to make sure that when I'm put in situations where I'm doing exorcisms or I'm doing entity removals or negative, attachment clearings, that I'm not getting freaked out, because the last thing you want is the exorcist getting freaked out and running away. It's kind of like the bomb squad. If they freak out and run, follow.
I know, you're the one they're supposed to save the day, for God's sakes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I have to say my paranormal investigator partner, Tim Sedano, who I know you've talked to before, mm-hmm. he and I have a really great confidence and trust in each other. And that's kind of the joke. If you see JJ start running, mm-hmm. don't ask questions, just run.
Yeah.
And, because he also knows I'm not going to run because there's just a spider or something silly. Yeah. I can be serious.
Yeah. What kind of places have you guys investigated? I don't know. I'm just wondering what brought your curiosity there. What kind of places have you investigated that maybe there was a scary one that you might want to mention? What have you done in your investigation work?
Yeah. So let me start at how I even got into doing that to begin with.
Yeah.
So I don't watch ghost hunters or any of these ghost hunting shows on TV. And there's a reason why, because I get really, really frustrated and irritated quickly, mm-hmm. especially when people are riling them up. Mm-hmm. Because to me, that's just rude. Like, if someone broke into my house at 3 a.m. and was like, put on a show for me, I'm going to be like, oh, I have some choice words and things are getting thrown. Yeah. So I kind of understand why they're throwing things and having a fit, because you're coming into their territory. Mm-hmm. And then asking that, and then oh, you're going to challenge them and rile them up. First of all, that's just not smart.
Right. So
it was fall. And there was some marathon on, and I was meal prepping at the time. So I would cook all my meals for the week on a Sunday. Mm-hmm. And it took me, 6 hours. And so I would put something mindless on TV just to have in the background, because I'm doing a lot of energy work in my food. Mm-hmm. And I had probably put on, one of my sci-fi channel or something like that. And this marathon comes on. And I thought, whatever, I'll allow it. I'm not, I'm half paying attention. Mm-hmm. And it was one after the other of just anything that could go wrong went wrong in mm-hmm. these investigations. And I don't mean to judge or blame anyone. I mean, I know they're on TV and they've got to make ratings. But when I see the paranormal investigators go there, rile this stuff up, and then the family is terrified, and the family's already underwater, they're not able to move. It's the common trope, right? They put all their money in the house. The house is a hell house. Yeah. they've had, 52 priests and pastors come out, and everyone runs out screaming, and they call this paranormal group, and then they run out screaming. The family's like, great. So everyone's like, tick this thing off. And now, like, I have to live here because I can't leave. I'll go live in a box,
Exactly.
And so it was one of those shows. So it wasn't like one specific paranormal group. And I'm seeing, these people, and they're sobbing, and they're like, we just gave up the house to the bank, and we literally went bankrupt. And, now we, rent a cardboard shack down at the boardwalk, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, how irresponsible to be a paranormal investigative team and not have somebody on your team that A, can see these things for clearly what they are, but also B, can deal with them.
Yeah.
And this is, a YouTube channel wasn't even in my periphery at the time, or doing podcasts or anything. I didn't even know what a podcast was at the time this happened. And I thought, you know what, that's it. I need to find one in my area, and I'm going to offer my services, because I've been doing this most of my life.
Yeah.
And let's just see, if they don't have someone like me, at least I can be on call for if they need someone. And there were 5 in the area, and I put my finger, through, scan the names, and it was Sunday night. It's like 9:00 on a Sunday night. It's against everything in all of my grown-up etiquette to call someone after 7 p.m. on a Sunday. And I dialed, and he answered barely before it rang. And I said, hey, I'm a psychic cleaner, and I want to work with you. And he said, great, we need one. And I said, awesome. So, obviously he met me, and, they put me through some testing, which was very uncomfortable, but it was a good learning experience. So we were talking about maybe doing like a walkthrough somewhere, just kind of see how do we work as a team. Well, we ended up getting a call, and it was 3 girls who were in college. And they were having all these issues, and their boyfriends were over, and they were having all these issues. And we walk into the house, and it's winter at this point. It's cold, and they have the heat up to 90, and you could still see your breath. And so Tim and our other partner, Henry, went in first, and I stayed in the parking lot, and I cloaked myself so that I'm not going to peek. And they did kind of a quick walkthrough, and immediately, like, Tim came running out. He was like, you are needed. Like, get in here. And they'd set the cameras up, and I put 1 foot over the threshold, and I stopped, and I just literally backed up against the door, and I said, I don't know what you want me to do yet, because I know you want to get something on film, but like, I'm learning this too, because normally my reaction is go in and handle it.
Yeah.
I want to protect the girls. I want to make everything better, and like, let's just fix it. But I also have a whole bunch of cameras, and people want to get stuff and explanations, and I had to learn how to do that. Okay. So immediately in the kitchen, so when you walked in the front door, your eye line was straight into a galley kitchen. And immediately, like, Tim and everyone's all spread out in this place, and all the cabinets in the kitchen start opening and closing, immediately banging. And then there was a door at the very, very end. It was kind of like a utility closet, and the door opened super creepy, just right. And I just look over at them, and I'm like, well, you got it on camera. And they're like, well, what's in there? And I'm like, I don't know. And you could see it was a breaker box.
Yeah. But right now, if you want to share anything, if people want to reach out for, I don't know if you do regular psychic readings, or if you do these clearings, and people need assistance with all kinds of things. Tell us a little bit about what kinds of things people might reach out to you for, and how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so it's JJRose777 across the board: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, even TikTok. I don't do much on TikTok, but I enjoy videos, so send me some. If you have an issue, or if you think you might need a clearing, I would say email me is best. So you can always reach out to me on the socials. The issue is with the socials, because it's social media and there's a lot of other people, it's hard for me to completely focus if I've never worked with you before on what you're trying to convey or talk to me about. If you email me, it's almost like it takes all the noise away. And it's easier for me to get a read. And listen, I'm very, very honest. I do not do this for a living. This is not my day job. I do all of this on my spare time. I try to make everything, priced responsibly, not only for my time, but also so that the average person can get help. I also have referrals. I do not do straight readings, but I do clearings with a reading because information's coming through. And clearings don't necessarily mean that you have, an attachment or you're possessed. Clearing sometimes can just be, I've been stuck in a rut energetically and I don't know how to break out of it. And, most of the time I'm going to tell you, I got a video for that. I have a whole playlist of instructionals of different ways for you to learn techniques so that you can kind of help yourself. But hey, same reason why we go out to eat every once in a while. We don't always want to, make dinner or clean our own house. And sometimes you're okay paying someone else to do it. And that's okay. If there is something that you do want that I either cannot provide or I'm not the right fit for you, and I'm completely okay with that, just let me know what you're looking for. And I have a wonderful referral list. I have people that I personally know and I vetted, and making sure that, if you want, let's say, a tarot card reading, that I'm going to send you to someone who I know really will give you an accurate reading. Or if you want just a mediumship, type of reading, I know some people who are actual bona fide mediums who can just strictly do that for you. Because let's face it, there's a lot of people out there, and not all of them are great. And there's a lot of scams online, a ton. So even if I'm just an information hub for you, I'm okay doing that because I just want people to get good information. And also, if I can spark just a little bit of you wanting to do this on your own or clear yourself or think a little deeper about some certain concepts, then, that will make my year. So that's why I put all the videos out.
No, and that's great. And I've dealt with JJ Rose before, and I can tell you that she is a good, reliable source. So don't hesitate, but again, understand what she can and cannot do, or probably won't have time to do to assist you. But I'll get this information in the show notes, and then people will probably, if they reach out to you or whether they think about it or whatever, at least they know that they've got you right here. So on that behalf, we will have you back, and thank you once again for coming back as my returning guest. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you so much, Kelly.